welcome to Kameira Concepts podcast. Yes, that is with a K and it is intentional. This podcast is fun, is the fun little quirks about me and my life, whether that being creative or just about me studying, stressing, just life really. And if you would like to hear any topics, consider subscribing, liking, and then turning on notifications. And if you have any further questions, then please leave it in the comments below and maybe I'll do an episode on it. Do some research and try and answer your question to the best of my ability. I have always wanted to start a podcast, and I feel like this year is the right time for many reasons. One being, the last 2 years have literally been an absolute shambambles, and it's just made me realize that you might as well start things like while you have the time, which leads us into today's topic, and that is temporary. So this is the word I decided to choose for 2022, and when you first think about it, it can be a pretty depressing thing, like temporary. What does temporary even mean? And I decided to choose this word for a specific reason because lately I've just been realizing that everything is temporary. No matter what it is, if it's a thing or a relationship or a friendship or anything, it is temporary. It doesn't last forever. And yes, there are those relationships that do last for a very long time, but unfortunately, they're never going to last forever because you're not here forever. So, I chose this word because I came to realize something recent, that nothing lasts forever. And I've been saying this for the past 2 years now. Like, I actually came up with it during the pandemic, is that everything has a deadline. And if I'm completely honest, I feel that that's true because if you think about it, every moment you go through, it doesn't last forever. It even though it may feel like it's a long time, it will always come to an end. And then you look back and you go, wow, I did that, or wow, I'm so glad that is over. So everything has a deadline and everything is temporary. And I want us to think about this as we move into 2022, when we set new goals or resolutions. If you think about it, if you set new resolutions, you only set them up and then suddenly you fail, so you stop doing them and you feel terrible about it. We set up temporary ideals of ourselves only to regret it later when we cannot live up to our own expectations, which is so true because we set this ideal self of, oh, I'm going to be like this by the end of the year, or oh, I'm going to be like this in 5 months. But then we realize, no, that doesn't happen because life gets in the way. Everything is temporary. Nothing lasts. We get on this like amazing spurt of energy and we start doing the thing and then we lose our motivation and eventually we just stop doing it. And that's when habit like kicks in, where you just got to keep doing it, So everything in life is temporary. Nothing or no one stays exactly the same. You may think you're not changing, but if you look back, you'll see all the changes you've done, grown, and despite you not even feel like you're moving. Like, I can see the changes in my own life. Every day, it doesn't seem like I'm changing, but if I look back to a month ago, I had a completely different mindset. I was watching completely different things on YouTube. I was doing completely different things to what I'm doing now. So just remembering that everything is temporary, and even though you may feel like you're not changing, you are. Slowly but surely, you are changing and you are evolving into a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. So this is why memories are so important, because they can make you happy, but they can also make you sad. And remembering those memories is temporary too, sadly, because our brain, yes, your memory is amazing, but after time, your memories start to fade and you don't remember it as well as you used to. And I remember hearing something a while ago. I don't know where I heard it. It was probably in a YouTube video or something. But your brain, how it works is that every time you go to sleep, it cleans out everything and it stores certain things into long-term memory, and it just discards and gets rid of useless information. That's often why, and don't hold me accountable to this because I am not an expert, that's why often if you try and remember what you ate the day before, you can't, because your brain has deemed that knowledge not important. So if you want to keep a record of what you eat, then just write it down when you're eating it, kind of thing. But, if you don't, then you don't have to. Off topic. So, what I was trying to say is your brain plays tricks on you where you think you're remembering something a certain way when it actually happened another way. And I heard that if you tell a story, you will tell that exact same story 12 different times before you forget it. So let's say, for example, it's fresh in your head. You tell the story once. That was probably the most accurate time. Then let's say you try and tell the story 2 weeks later. You may tell it similarly to how you said it the first time, but it's not exactly the same. And then let's say you meet another friend 3 months later and you suddenly remember the story that you had. Your brain will tell it a completely different way. It will remember it a completely different way because it's cleaned and it's cleaned out useless information from those details you'd put in. So your brain will eventually forget things. Like, I remember certain things, but I don't remember other things. So temporary. That's the word for today. The topic we're talking about is that everything is temporary. And that word used to terrify me. Like, I was like, why is everything so temporary? Why does nothing last forever? Why do we have to keep getting new things? Why do things break? Why do things fade away? And I've come to like this realization that everything is temporary because we want it to be. Like, if you think about it, if everything stayed exactly the same, if everything was perfect, nothing was bad, we had only good, we would get very, very bored of that very, very quickly. And I feel like it's because we sort of want things to break. We want things to change. However, we also don't want things to change. We're like at this constant battle with ourselves where we want to do something, but we also don't want to do that same thing because we're scared, we're afraid, we don't want it to, we we want that to change, but we don't want it to change at the same time. So, and whether that be we want to be famous, but then we also don't want to be famous. We want to be rich, but we also want to be poor. We want to make a long-lasting legacy, but at the end of the day, no one really remembers the people from 3,000 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. Sure, there might be that one or two people, but for the majority, no one remembers those people. So, and that's just life. Everything is temporary. And that's what keeps life exciting. So I decided to look up the definition of temporary because while I was at it, I was like, what is temporary? What actually is the word temporary? What does it mean? So the Oxford Dictionary defines it as lasting for only a short time. And it originated from the Latin word temporarius, which means temporary if you think about it, And I wanted to then ask myself this question is, what's been a temporary thing in my life, whether it's been happy, sad, what has been a temporary thing in my life? And I just came to realize this, but last year was one of the most difficult years of my life, mentally and physically. I've never had a year where I felt so drained. Even 2020 wasn't as bad as contrary as that might seem, because though yes, 2020 was different to me, I didn't feel as bad or as drained mentally and physically as I did last year. And one of those contributing factors, I think, is because I, for the first time, felt what it felt like to work so many hours, so long. I was working from like 5, no, actually like 5 in the morning until like 12 at night, and just constantly working on assignments and studying and trying to find new information and everything. And my to-do list never seemed to end. And though I tried to do fun activities, I tried to look past it, I didn't feel like I was. And thinking back to last year, I've had so many different experiences that have actually been happy and sad. But one of the most ones that stand out to me is, I'd say, during the period of from June to August. That was one of the most stressful times of my life. And the whole year did also seem quite stressful, but those 3 months in particular were one of the hardest and most challenging times in my life that I remember. Because I remember then I was waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would only go to bed at like 1 o'clock in the evening, but I'd be working the whole time. Like I would try and take a quick break here and there, eat lunch or food, take a quick break. But the rest of the time, I was constantly working on this to-do list, constantly trying to do things. I didn't have time to do anything else. I was literally so tightly knit with my time that I started to feel depressed. I started to develop depression, actually, because I never used to, but I suddenly started feeling the need to listen to happier music and just listen to something happy before I went to bed, because I was feeling so terrible and awful inside and dead almost, that I sort of was like, oh no, I have to listen to something exciting or making me feel at least happy or calm. So I started listening to music, and it did help me so much, I must say, because music is interesting. Though it lasts for such a short time, if you think about it, it's temporary, the music, but it's also everlasting, because you can listen to that same temporary song over and over and over again, and it can make you feel a certain type of way. So I had such a hard, depressing time last year, but I made through it, and it just, got me realizing, yes, everything is temporary. So I was so glad that I made it through, and now I'm able to talk about it and say, yes, I've been through that extremely hard time in my life, but I'm happy I did it. I'm happy that I went through it, because now if someone asks me, oh, I'm so depressed, or oh, I don't know how to feel, I'm going through so much, I can say, I've kind of been there. I kind of know what you're going through. I don't know exactly what you're going through, because no two experiences are the same. Trust me, they're never the same. But I can empathize with you. I can see where you are at. I can try and help you. You gain experience to help others through your own experiences. So I feel like when you're feeling like you're in a corner, you're in a wall, you can't, you don't know where you're going in life, then maybe just turn on one of my podcasts, or just turn on something that makes you happy, makes you feel like you're with a friend, or just chilling out, and just know that you're not alone. This is hard that you're going through, and I know that it is. Whatever it may be, but just remember that it is temporary. So we have now made it about halfway through our podcast and halfway through our, topic. And now I don't just want to talk about the sad side of temporary. I want to come to looking at the good side of temporary. What is actually good about it about temporary? What is the good about something that is temporary, that doesn't last forever? And it got me thinking, I'm actually glad that nothing lasts forever. Think about it. If we had to live in the same thing for years, we would be so depressed.
If I think about it, I'm actually glad that things are temporary in a weird way. Because think about it. If everything stays the same, wouldn't that just become boring and mundane? Being that good or bad things. I mean, if you were always having a good time and you never had a bad time, if you always were having good experiences and you never had bad experiences, then wouldn't that become a bit boring? I mean, if you think about it, if you only had good times in life, you would get a bit bored about having a good time. You have to have those really bad times in order to appreciate the good experiences. And you have to have, you know, really good experiences, and then you sort of learn from your bad experiences. So I feel like temporary is not necessarily always a bad thing. And yes, life is short, life is temporary, which means you must just go and do the best things you can do, whatever it is that you're destined to do, whatever you feel like is guiding you to do that. Go and just do it. Just do it, because yes, life is short and it doesn't always feel like that. But if you look back, your life is probably going by a lot quicker than you imagine it to. So I feel like good and bad things bring balance in life. And that's something we always need to remember, that even though we have bad times, we will eventually have a good time. And even though we have good times, bad times will always come. But what's important is that you grow and you learn from those experiences. So that is what I think about temporary. And again, just reiterating, I chose this word for this year because just realizing that everything in life is temporary, and to not get so caught up on this idea of, oh my gosh, I want things to last forever, because they never will. They never ever will. And you just don't know how long things will last before they fade away. Here's a little quote I want to leave you with that I recently came up with, actually. It goes, life's meaningless moments could turn into meaningful memories. And just thinking about that is, yes, everything is temporary, but just to enjoy it as you're going through, even the bad times. Because when you're having a good time, you'll look back and you go, wow, I actually went through that. I actually, did that. So I just want to leave you with that life's meaningless moments could turn into meaningful memories. So I hope you enjoyed listening to my podcast today. And if you did find that it was fun, then leave a like, share it with your friends if you found value. Don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow my Instagram on Kameira_crafts. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go and check me out there. I also post like crafts and just funny videos and just things about my life there if you want. If you have any suggestions on what you want me to talk about next, then please leave it in the comments. If you have questions you want me to answer, then please leave that down in the comments as well. And I would love to know what you think of my podcast. So you have been listening to Kameira Concepts by Kameira. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and bye.